Hello everyone, my name is Azerul bin Baru Isham, ID 1201101128, and I am excited to present my final year project. Before I begin, I would like to bid hello to my supervisor, Sir Bang Ka Wang, my advisor, Madam Ko Dai Chi, and the audience currently watching this video. The objectives of this project was to create a unique gaming experience by merging tactical movement and gunplay, survival horror, and roguelike mechanics into one seamless gameplay. The main objectives of this project were to conduct a background study on games with similar gameplay mechanics, to successfully merge tactical movement, gunplay, survival horror, and roguelike mechanics into a single cohesive gameplay experience, and lastly, to develop a prototype or proof of concept that showcases the seamless gameplay integration. In my project, I've implemented a few key mechanics that adheres towards the FPS and survival horror genre. Let us go through one by one, and I will explain to you how it works. For the first one is the camera controls. I've added a simple camera on the player itself, and actually I've implemented a true first-person perspective camera system. What this means is that you can actually see your whole body when you look down. You can see your feet, you can see your torso, and in all honesty, I feel like this type of camera controls is way more realistic than other FPS games. To add to that is the player movement. If you follow the tutorial here, you can use WASD to walk, mouse to look, left to shoot, and the middle mouse button to open the flashlight. You can also use Y to check ammo, G to pick up items, and also control to crouch, sprint to run, Q and E to lean, X to slide. An FPS game is nothing without its guns, and therefore I've created a detailed gun system with realistic mechanics and sound design. So for example, when I shoot, the sound, and of course when my gun runs out, there will be a blank sound because the gun is not currently firing a bullet. And lastly, we also have reloading sounds. I've tweaked the damage of the gun itself so that it won't be too overpowered towards the enemies. And in addition, I've also added a dead zone aiming system for enhanced weapon responsiveness. If you can see at the barrel of the gun, it's actually moving to the direction of where the player is looking at. For the guns, last but not least, the guns actually can correctly collide with all of the items and objects in the game itself. For example, if I go towards this whiteboard, the gun won't clip into the whiteboard itself, but it will actually move up, acting as though it's a physical object in the game itself. Furthermore, I've also developed an inventory system with healing items using a canvas, UIs, panels, and multiple scripts. In my project right now, you can pick up 3 items: a painkiller, a medkit, and a magazine. The painkiller and the medkit heals you, with the painkiller having a lower healing factor and the medkit having a higher healing factor. Here I have items behind me, and when I go to them, I can actually pick them up and it will enter my inventory. Of course, when I shoot and I reload, the magazine will be used, and this acts same as the painkiller when the player is damaged. To add to that, I've built a detailed model of the Faculty of Computing Informatics building using a package from Unity itself called ProBuilder. So in this game, I've created 2 playable areas, the first floor and the second floor. Let me just run you towards the level itself. So I have all the classes. We have the bathroom, we have the stairs, we have lifts, and this is the emergency stairs, along with the glass room and this first floor, and classrooms and classrooms and classrooms and classrooms. For the enemies itself, I've successfully created enemies with a simple finite state machine that can act based on its state. The states are patrol, chase, and attack. In which patrol, the enemy will just patrol the area, the nav mesh. Chase, if the enemy sees the player, the enemy will walk towards the player and chase them. And attack, when the enemy is closest to the player, they will actually attack them and deal damage to the player. Actually, the enemy, I've implemented an FOV script to the enemy, in which the enemy can only see on these yellow lines. So here in front here, the enemies can actually see the player behind here, but the enemies can hear whatever the player is doing or whatever movement the player is currently undergoing, which will be explained further in the stealth mechanic. Continuing to that, I've also added a stealth mechanic where the player can crouch to avoid enemy detection. The way this works is that every time the player walks or sprints, they will emit a sound, and this sound can be heard by the enemies based on the hearing range. Now when you crouch, you won't actually create any sound, and you can see this sound being emitted in game by looking at the green debug line behind it. So with this stealth mechanic, in theory, the player can actually stealth the way out of the game fully if they were smart enough to avoid the enemy's detection. I've also added a door mechanic using physics bodies and hinge joints and colliders on doors. So basically, you can use your physical body to push the doors open, such as so. And of course, I've also put sounds for all the doors so that it increases the realism. To add to that, I've also added a trigger zones in certain parts of the maps, and when the player collides with the trigger zone, enemies will spawn and it will play a sound, and this, depending on the situation, can scare the player, such as this. The next mechanic will be the surface manager. So in this game, I've created a script where you can tag surfaces using different materials to manage their interactions. So for example, if I shoot this concrete wall, we will play a concrete heat effect. And same goes for wood and concrete and flesh. For the atmosphere, I've used a lot of lighting and ambient noise to enhance the game's atmosphere. So for example, you can see this here. And this also comes with the flickering light mechanic, where I've added randomized flickering lights to the lights itself to help add a spooky effect to the game. In addition, I've also added ambient noises to the player itself, such as this monster ambience and the super low rumbles. And last but not least is the bodycam implementation. With the bodycam, I've enhanced the realism animation of this project using various volume effects. So I have a global volume in the scene, and in the global volume, I have a volume with a lens distortion, vignette, chromatic aberration, motion blur, depth of field, film grain, bloom, leaf gamma gain, and color adjustments. There were several obstacles along the way, such as programming the AI to behave in a certain way, dealing with the lighting issues on specific surfaces, and managing the highly ambitious scope of this project. Despite these challenges, I managed to create a functional prototype that serves as a promising foundation for further development. In conclusion, while the game is not as feature-rich as initially planned, it represents a significant leap towards creating a unique gaming experience by blending both tactical FPS and survival horror elements. This project has taught me valuable lessons about game development, including the importance of time, effort, and strict management. Developing this game has greatly increased my appreciation for game developers and studios. I now have a deeper understanding of how game mechanics are presented, coded, and delivered. Thank you for watching this demonstration of my final year project. If you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to reach out. Again, thank you.